Okay, so Marcel, part one. And on the screen, I look like I'm from ISIS or something, so I'm sorry. It's really cold. So hopefully to you, I look a little less threatening. But here I can see it's like all, I'm completely covered. Okay. Um, so let me go over some of your comments, which were interesting um, before we start. So yeah, a lot of you are complaining about how difficult it is to follow where he's going. It's convoluted. What's he trying to say, right? And remember, I think I told you this in the introduction. Can you hear me good? I feel like I'm muffled. I'm okay? Okay. I can barely hear myself. Okay. So yeah, remember, this is kind of a philosophical diary, right? So he's really leading us into his own thought process. He's not giving us the result, right? This is typical of 20th century philosophy. Philosophers are not going to just give you everything, like spoon feed you what they have understood. They are themselves still searching. This is the difference between 20th century and everybody before them. Everybody before them had a kind of clear sense, okay, I figured it out. This is what the cosmos is like. This is the way, right? In the 20th century, there's really a sense of disorientation that is coming from the war, right? Both world wars, Europe kind of awakens and realizes, wow, everything we have built before this, right? Everything we believed, everything we thought we were not, right? Anybody have a personal crisis like this where you wake up one day and you're like, nah, everything I was is gone. I don't know who I am, where I'm going, what happened, right? This is Europe at the time, right? The trauma of the two wars, right? They realize we're not who we thought we were. We're not going where we thought we were going. We don't know anymore how to move forward because everything that we were relying on, all of our morality, our religion, clearly was not enough to resist the tide of evil, right, that came with the First and Second World War. So they realized, like, we don't know anymore how to be good people, clearly, right? We don't have enough of a moral backbone, clearly, right? Everything we have philosophized about that we thought was giving us, a sense of what is right and wrong, didn't work. It didn't stand up to the wars, right? So we're in this time where philosophers are lost, right? And they're kind of just meandering, trying to think about things. And Marcel is one of those lost philosophers. We're going to study two more, right? Levinas, and then Simone Weil is a little more clear, but Levinas also, you're going to see, right? And this is really, he's really inviting us into his thought process. Occasionally, he's going somewhere. This is the difficulty with Marcel, and I think I told you this in the introduction. You sense he's getting somewhere. You see the light, and then poof, he switches and goes somewhere else, right? And it's like, And in a way, it's up to us, right, to continue the thought, to explore in the orientation that he's giving us. So a lot of this philosophy that we're entering now, existentialist philosophy, a lot of this philosophy you cannot prove unless you experience it. Whatever he is saying will sound hollow unless you actually have experienced what he's saying or are willing to experience it, right? So this is how we, right? Notice he's not doing any arguments, although yes, he is. We'll see the argument, the structure of the argument, but he's not really trying. It is impossible to prove things that can only be experienced, right? So we're moving from a strictly intellectual approach to an existential approach where you cannot really understand what he's talking about when he talks about love or hope or presence. These are the three main feelings we will study unless you have felt them, right? So this is kind of where we are. So this is why, right, he's not writing like this to, project himself as superior. He's writing like this because he's searching and he's inviting us into his search, right? This is really what's happening. Other interesting comment, one of you mentioned, why does he have to call the mystery ontological, right? I think that was you. Why not just mystery? Why ontological? So I will explain, right? Ontological mystery means that it is a mystery which can only be accessed through life, through living, through experiencing. Ontology means being, right? Existing. So this is different from the mysteries that we've looked at, that Plato, for example, talks about, which is an intellectual. You access the mystery intellectually. Rumi was a little more existential. You access through the heart, right? But Maimonides and Plato, you access the mystery intellectually. and then Rumi through the emotions. Marcel, you cannot access this mystery unless you have experienced certain things in life, unless you have lived life deeply enough. You cannot. So this is so interesting because for the first time, we have the idea of a transcendent realm within immanence, right? We have the idea of metaphysics within the physical. It's as you live that you begin to connect to this deeper layer of reality. Very similar to Job, right? Remember Job, it was as he entered life, as he suffered, as he went through things, that he started to see deeper things about God and so forth. So they're very similar. So this is the idea here, that you access this mystery not by separating from life, right? Not by rising above existence, but by really engaging with reality, by loving, by suffering, by hoping, by experiencing the death of a loved one, and so forth. These are the ways that you begin to come closer to this mystery. So does that answer your question a little bit, Inoyeto?
The way I understood ontological, I thought that he meant to say that it has this sort of objective character.
Yeah, exactly. Ontological existence, right? No objectivity, of course, because...
It could be a purely subjective existence.
What?
It could be a purely subjective existence.
It is absolutely subjective, the experience of the ontological mystery, right? It is a subjective truth. This is kind of we sense this as an oxymoron. It seems like a contradiction. How can a truth be subjective, right? But I already prepared you with Rumi, right? Rumi says our feelings, deeply subjective, yet they can point to a deeper reality. So Marcel is similar here. I've already prepared your minds, right, for Marcel. Okay. I was a funny one. I forget who it was, but he said, "Oh, it's nice to read someone agnostic who is not filled with lies." I thought that was cute. I had to share that. So yes, it's true. But when you have an agnostic writer, he doesn't know. He's not going to give you certainties that are unfounded, right? So good. And then finally, yes, we're going to talk about this. A lot of you are still skeptical, right, that Marcel can be a good way to answer to Nietzsche, because you say, yes, feelings, but the mind still interprets the feelings, right? So we have to bypass that. We're going to look at that. Okay, are we ready? Any questions? Anything you wanted from your groups that you were stuck on that you want to share? Or you're good? How shall we begin? Yes? Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to talk about two things. I think I made the same outline in the introduction lecture. First of all, I will talk about the disenchanted world. So D-I-S and then enchanted, right? Like enchanted forest. Disenchanted world and the rise of despair. That's the first title. And then the second title is, what happened to my notes? Hold on, 22, 24, where's 23? Oh, here. Mercy. Okay. And then number 2 is rediscovering being, right? Or reconnecting to being, or discovering being, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So I'll just go over some of what we said in the introduction lecture, right? The world in the 20th century, because of the rise of science, has become disenchanted, meaning there's no more mystery, there's no more God, right? There's no more intelligent design. Everything is just random, right? With the theory of evolution, especially, this was a huge influence in the disenchanting of the world, right? With the theory of evolution, there's no God anymore, no design, no order, no cosmic order or cosmic intelligence. It's all random, right? So we are, because of science, especially Darwinist science, we are in a world now where there's absolutely no connection between the world and some higher intelligence, right? We are, in that sense, the world is disenchanted, right? There's no more enchantment. Enchantment meaning, right, something magical, something supernatural, right? So we are there, of course, because of science, because of a Darwinian, especially science. And of course, Nietzsche was already sensing that, right, when he proclaimed with a lot of happiness and joy, right, God is dead. I don't know if we did this. I think I mentioned that quote, right, in the introduction video of Nietzsche, right? God is dead. The sea, the open sea lies before us, right? So Nietzsche was already sensing, right, the death of God, the death of the supernatural, the death of the metaphysical, the death of the enchantment, right? And so, whereas Nietzsche is kind of happy about it, Marcel, who's living in the aftermath of World War I, is realizing, right, that a world without this deeper dimension is a world which can only be experienced in a state of despair, at least according to him. His diagnostic, right, why so many people despair after the war, right, or during that time, early 20th century, why there's so much despair and suicide and cynicism. He is diagnosing it, and of course we'll have to see whether he's right, but for now this is the diagnostic. He's saying we are like this because we have lost our connection to this deeper reality, which according to Marcel exists. Now again, I'm going to stop some of you who are already complaining in your minds, right? He's going to prove that it exists, right? Right now I'm just saying he has a reason to believe that there's a deeper dimension. Of course, he needs to show us his argument. It's not like Rumi, right? Rumi takes it for granted that, yes, there is God and the heart knows God, right? Not Marcel, right? He's much more philosophical. He's thinking about Nietzsche. He knows he has to prove that there is such a deeper dimension, and he's going to attempt to do that. And today we'll look at one of his proofs, right? So he is saying, right, for now we can just see where he's going, and then we'll look at the proof. Unless we become reconnected to this dimension, we are bound for despair in this world, right? We cannot survive the chaos, right? I mean, anytime you wake up, you could die. Anytime you wake up, family member could die. You could, I don't know, you're pregnant, you could have, give birth to something crazy, right? So anything could happen, right? And so in this world, if we don't have an anchor into this deeper reality, we are bound to despair, according to Marcel. And for him, that is the solution to the despair of his time. Remember, Marcel is kind of acting like a soul doctor, right? He's realized, not like a medical doctor, but a soul doctor. He's looking at the soul of his contemporaries, the spirit of his contemporaries. He's noticing despair across the board, right? Everyone, after the First War or during the First War, is in despair. He's saying, this is what I believe my contemporaries need to learn, is to reconnect to this dimension so that we can overcome this despair. And I want to be clear, this dimension is not a religious dimension, right? This is an ontological dimension. Remember the definition of ontology, right? Ontology from the Greek ontos, O-N-T-O-S, means being. Being, existence, right? So when he's talking about ontological mystery, he's saying this is a mystery which is in our existence. As human beings, we all can have access to this dimension. This is not a religious thing, right? That you can access, right? That you need a religion to access. Yes, Epstein.
What's the difference?
Between being and God?
Yes.
For instance, okay, yes, right? Religion calls it God, right? Well, for one thing, God is defined. God has attributes. God has laws. God has commandments. God is very clear in the religions, right? And this is how you access, and so forth, right? So most philosophers at the time, Marcel, Jaspers, and Levinas also, had an issue with the way that we have taken away the mystery of God, right? God is too clear, right? God, we know too much about him, right, in that sense. So, and also, if you don't believe in God, you don't have access to God, correct? So for Marcel, even if you don't believe, remember, Marcel is thinking of his contemporaries. He's wanting to nurture their soul. They're all atheists now, right? After the war, I'll give you an example. The Nobel Prize winner, Elie Wiesel. How many of you are familiar with Elie Wiesel? Elie Wiesel, some of you, right? Elie Wiesel, he's a survivor from Auschwitz, right, from the Holocaust. He went to Auschwitz, he survived, his whole family was destroyed. He emerges, he goes into Auschwitz, a believer, he comes out an atheist, right? This is how powerful the war was, right? Anybody who had some religious fiber, they go through the camps, they come out, they cannot believe in God. And we'll talk more about that when we do Levinas, who has himself been in the context of the Holocaust. So Marcel is aware, my contemporaries are atheists. I cannot talk to them about God. They don't believe in God. How can I give them back a spiritual dimension? So now that's why he uses the term being, and that's why he makes it something that is ontological, meaning everyone can access it, even if you're an atheist. Does that answer your question, Epstein? Do you see the motivation, at least, why he wants to reduce it to being, or generalize it to being?
I find the separation thin and veiled.
You can blend them if you want, right? Anything he's saying about being, actually, it's interesting because I think I mentioned he had a Catholic friend who read his work and was like, yo, you're a Catholic, right? Marcel's like, what do you mean? And he's like, look, this is really resonating with a lot of what Christianity or religion teaches, right? So Marcel kind of stumbled on God, right? Doesn't call him God, doesn't want to call him God, right? Does that make sense?
Only because of the fact that calling him God would admit to religion and admitting to rules.
No, not rules. It's not rules. The issue is that people have stopped believing in God. Right.
So he's not calling it God because it's everything but in name. Almost.
Yeah, because
there's a couple of separations, but
yes, it's he doesn't want to use the name because the name has become a curse word in Europe. Baggage. Right? And also it makes it immediately inaccessible to a whole bunch, to 80% of the population then, right? So, and he wants to nurture their soul. So he knows if I use God, they're going to reject, but if I use being, actually, he wasn't even thinking like that, right? Because he was an atheist when he was writing. I am helping you see it like that, right? That in a way, this language is necessary, right? Because everyone is overwhelmingly atheistic and reacting to God, right? So in a way, this language is necessary at the time. And instinctively, Marcel knew this, even though he was an atheist when he wrote all this, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sort of. Okay, see, you had a question.
You kind of answered my question.
I answered?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about the
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there are connections, but again, when Marcel was writing this, he was not yet a Catholic, right? So he kind of, they meet, right? He stumbled upon these truths, which for him were universal. Every human being has this dimension or can connect to this dimension, and incidentally, religions talk about it too, but differently, right? The approach of religion is very different than what Marcel is proposing. Okay, where was I? Someone tell me where I was, please. Thank you. The despair, yes. So he's trying, right, again, right, I know some of you are skeptical, right? He still has to prove there is such a dimension, right? So we'll get to that. All right. So couple quotes before we get into what is being, right? Here's a couple quotes on page 12. Okay, page 12. Last paragraph. It should be noted. Who is with me? Raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay. It should be noted that this world is on the one hand riddled with problems, and on the other determined to allow no room for mystery, right? This is the scientific spirit. This is the time of the 20th century. We know problem and mystery, this is the difference. Maybe you can write it down. This is important. Problem is something that you can solve, right? A problem is like what remedy can I give this diseased body, or what is the speed of light, or whatever, right? So we believe everything is at the level of our reason. We can solve everything eventually in this world. There is no room for mystery as something that we cannot grasp, we cannot solve, we cannot control. We don't have room for that in our civilization. Everything we believe, I got this. I can eventually figure this out. Everything has to be rational. Nothing can be irrational. This is the world we live in, right? So he continues, I shall come back to this distinction and so forth. For the moment, I shall only point out that to eliminate or to try to eliminate mystery, right, to bring into play in the face of events which break in on the course of existence, birth, love, death, that psychological and pseudoscientific category of the purely natural, right? So in other words, he's saying our world, our civilization has been trying to eliminate the concept or the notion of mystery. We just want science, right? Things we can figure out and control and create technology with. We are not interested or sensitive to the fact that there is a deeper dimension that we cannot understand, control, manipulate, use to our own benefit, right? And he says, there are events, however, that crack into the system, right, that are mysterious, that we are all experiencing, such as birth, love, and death. Let me talk a little bit about those, right? So even if you're a hardcore scientific mindset, right, and you only believe what is explained by science, birth is a mystery, right? Yeah, there's explanation, this and this, blah, 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 but, you know, the fact that there's still a surplus, right? The fact that a woman can create a child, right, is still deeply mysterious, right? How, we know the mechanics of it, but there's still something more going on, right, than that. It still seems like something very, in fact, this was such a powerful experience for the ancients, right? If you go to the ancient world, they were so aware of the power of the woman to create that, right? That they made the woman into a goddess, right? This was the time of the goddess worship because the woman was seen as having magical powers almost, right? That the fact that she could create life was seen with such reverence that they considered the woman to be partaking of, right, a part of the gods, right? So there was a kind of worship, right, of the goddess. Ah, the good old days of the ancient world, right? So that's the idea, right? So there was really a sense of awe in the ancient world. Now we just see everything like everything is trivial. But in the beginning, right, when we were just being birthed as a humanity, people were really at awe at this power of the woman to generate life, right? So there is something, right, beyond science. Of course, love, right, that's a crazy thing, right, that science cannot explain why you end up, and we'll talk about love today. How is it that you end up with, right, your soulmate in a world of how many billion people? Tell me, somebody, where we are, 7 billion, right? How is it that some people are able to, right, we'll talk about that. So love is a mystery. And death, right, we have made death into a problem, which we're trying to solve by, you know, eating vitamins and, you know, jogging every day, whatever. But death is also a profound mystery. It's a gate into what we do not know. We've made it into something negative, but is it, right? Marcel is asking, should we see death as something necessarily negative? We don't know anything. It could be something else completely, right? It's a mystery we cannot control, right? So these are some of these liminal experiences in life that we cannot fully understand nor fully control. You cannot control birth. Any woman will tell you she's trying to get pregnant as this time is, you cannot control as a woman when you will give birth, how you will give birth, if you will give birth, right? This is out of our control. Love, you cannot control that person fall in love with you or not, or whether it's going to last, you don't know. Death, you cannot control. You see how in our life, even though we want to control everything, we have apps for everything now, right? You want something, just click a button. Another thing, click a button, immediately comes. We are the civilization of control, right? Yet within our civilization, there are cracks in our system where we are experiencing these liminal moments of out of control. And this is why love, birth, and death are the most difficult experiences for some of us, because it's out of our control. It's unbearable for us, right? It's pointing to mystery. Yes, Amoroso.
Can you explain liminal? Because that word, it makes me think of liminal spaces, which is this phenomenon where sometimes people, if they look at just empty sort of like rooms or spaces, it kind of gives them weird feelings of like nostalgia or like another world or even like unsettled.
That's it, that's it. That's it. Liminal means it's on the edge, it's unsure, it's like a no man's land, it's between, right, between worlds, right? Between worlds. Liminal, as if I define it, thank you, it's good to define the words. Learn this word, you will get it on your, or you had it. When do you do your SATs in this life of yours? Is that before or after? After, okay, what's the next one? There's another one, GRE, yes. Your GRE certainly will have the word liminal, right? Liminal is a space between two worlds, right? And it's a kind of no man's land. We don't know where we are. We are like kind of lost, right? Birth, love, death, liminal spaces for sure. Moments where we are between worlds. We do not control, we do not understand. Now we have a flavor of mystery, right? A taste of mystery. Okay, so that should already convince some of you already that there might be a deeper dimension, right? But we still have to do the real demonstration. Okay, so any questions so far before I go into Marcel's definition or discourse on being? Okay, being. So this is not a new concept in philosophy, at least the way he understands it. All over in Eastern philosophy, all the way to Greek philosophy, you have this notion that at the core of existence there is a dimension which is transcendent, right? You have this in Indian philosophy, India, right, from India, the notion that there is a deeper dimension within ourselves, right, which the Indians call the Brahman or the Atman, right? There is a kind of a deeper dimension. You have Chinese philosophy when they talk about the Tao, right? Greek philosophy, I'll focus on that one because that's where Marcel is coming from, right? In Greek philosophy, there was the idea that behind all the chaos of existence, there is an intelligence. And they call this in Greek the nous, N-O-U-S. Now you're learning a lot of vocabulary today, a lot of foreign vocabulary, right? So the nous, the idea that behind the chaos or the seeming chaos, there's an order, right? Now, for most Greeks, the nous was kind of just like an intelligence of nature, the laws of nature, nothing more. Now, when you go to the Stoics, where Marcel is coming from, these are the forefathers of Marcel. The Stoics actually believed that the intelligence of nature also regulated human existence, not just the stars or the seasons, right? The intelligence of nature was also regulating our existence. In other words, our lives had an intelligent design to it. There was an intelligence, kind of an invisible hand, putting us in certain situations, leading us in others, opening doors, closing doors. There is a kind of intelligence involved intelligence with our lives. That's why for the Stoics, you need to accept where you are, even if it's painful. Why? Because the intelligence put you there, right? And you know you have something to learn, right? You are there for a reason. This is the Stoic view, that the intelligence of nature is involved with you, knows you, or arranging your life so you go through what you need to go through to get to where you're going. So this is much more involved, right? I thought I saw a hand. Was that you?
Yeah, and that's not just specific to Marcel, that's also.
That's the Stoics, right? Before Marcel. But I'm giving you kind of the progression, right, to what Marcel is saying. Now, Marcel is going to sound very Stoic in that sense, right? For him, being is that intelligence which is involved in our lives, but and very much like the Stoics, he goes even further. This intelligence is on our side, is working for us. This is still Stoic, right? Very close to the Stoicism, right? So Marcel believes there's actually an intelligence involved with us, on our side, and of course for Marcel, in a way, therefore, this intelligence is personified. It's a person. Since it knows us, it's arranging things for us, it's on our side, sounds like a person, right? But of course, Marcel cannot say anymore, right? But he's just saying, I get the sense from certain experiences that there is an intelligence guiding my life. Of course, we still have to prove this, right? We can't just, Stoics just said it, right? The Greeks also. Marcel knows he has to deal with Nietzsche. He's aware. Nietzsche is speaking in his mind, right? So he knows he will have to make a proof. But I'm just giving you the idea, and then we'll see how he proves it. So this is the quote for that, right? So basically being, right, is this intelligence which is on our side, which in a way, not so much leading us, but certainly nourishing us, right? And that we can, in a way, relax into life because there is this intelligence, right, that is on our side systematically. Okay, so let's look at the way he talks about it. This is on page, can't read anymore. Deep breath. Yes, 12. I was right there. Okay. Okay. I'm looking at the 1, 2, 3rd paragraph. You see the middle, life in a world centered on function. Middle of 3rd paragraph. Wave at me if you're there. Raise your hand if you're there. Okay. So life in a world centered on function is liable to despair. Now talking about the world without mystery, right? Because in reality, this world is empty. It rings hollow. And if it doesn't, right, if it resists this temptation, it is only to the extent that there come into play from within it and in its favor certain hidden forces which are beyond its power to conceive or to recognize. So in other words, if we're out of contact with mystery, life will feel hollow, empty, right? And only to the extent, right, that and we're able to sense, to feel safe in the world only, according to Marcel, if we are somewhat aware that there is a force, right, from within, which is in our favor, right? So that's kind of the idea here with being, right? Okay. Now, of course, we still have to make the argument. So I haven't forgotten. So let me go over the way the argument works. He's going to give us 3 versions of the same argument, right? And he's going to talk about 3 things, 3 experiences we have. I'm going to tell you already. The first one, I'm just going to call fate. Fate, F-A-T-E, right? The feeling of fate. It's a feeling. We'll look at it today. Second one is the feeling of hope. And the last one is the feeling of presence of someone who died. We're going to talk about that. It's very important. Today we'll just do fate, so you can get an idea. But first, let's go over the structure of the argument. So reminder, Marcel is trying to show that there is such a dimension as being, which is on our side, right? Because that would be nice if that was the case. I would be quite happy, right? So, but now show me. How can I be sure you're not just, like Nietzsche said, delusional? Let's remember the Nietzschean critique, right? Nietzsche says we are so miserable that we project, make sure you get this, with our minds, we are feeling so miserable that our minds kick in. Make sure you're seeing this distinction. It's very important. We're feeling so miserable. Our minds kick in to protect ourselves from this feeling and project the fact that, all will be well. There's a creator. There's a judge. There's a beginning. There's an end. God loves you, right? Whatever, right? We will project this because we're feeling so hollow, empty, forsaken, estranged, alienated, miserable. Okay? Good. All right. So that's the Nietzschean argument. Now, we have to see how Marcel is going to bypass this, right? He does it quite well, in my view. Marcel is going to say this. He's going to say, what I'm going to talk about, and make sure you write this down, what I'm going to talk about is not a thought, nor an interpretation of reality, nor a projection. It's not happening on the level of the mind. It's a feeling. I am feeling this. I am not inventing it, I cannot control it, I cannot manufacture, but my feeling is telling me something. Now we have to see how that works, okay? So make sure you distinguish. Nietzsche is talking about a thought, Marcel is talking about a feeling, and we're going to see in a bit how this is very significant, very important. Okay, basically here is the argument. Marcel is saying, I'm going to try and be clear. He's saying there are certain feelings that we could not have unless we had some intuition of being. Let me say that again. There are certain feelings that we could not have unless we had some kind of awareness of being, some kind of unconscious awareness that there is such a force that is on my side. So he's saying that. So he's saying the fact that I'm having this feeling, it would not be possible for me to have this feeling unless I already had an awareness of being. So this feeling, in a way, is testifying to the existence of being. Of course, I'm going to give you the 3 examples, and you'll see clearly, right? So in other words, there are certain... So let me go over this notion of feeling again, right? For Marcel, this is really important. Feelings, they tell us things. They are, like I said in the introductory video, feelings are intentional. They point to something. Every feeling, right? Feelings are not just chemical reactions. You wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Now you're feeling miserable. No, there's a reason, right? For example, you come home, you're super pissed. I'm going to ask you, why are you so pissed? What are you going to tell me? What happened?
Traffic.
Yeah, traffic, teacher, whatever, friend. This and this happened, and so my anger is pointing to this event. My anger is coming from this event. Does that make sense? You come home super depressed. What are you going to tell me now? Well, I ask you what happened. You're going to say what? Some of you have been depressed for years. You don't remember why you're depressed. Right? Even those who were depressed for years, something...
Falling out with a friend.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Amoroso. But even if you were depressed all the time, there is something happened at one point in your life that caused this, right? So feelings, they come from places, right? Something is causing the feeling. That's what it means when I say the feeling is intentional. Feeling points to a cause. Feeling is pointing to something that creates the feeling. Am I making sense so far? right? So Marcel says, yes, on the realm of the physical realm, on the realm of the physical world, a feeling is always connected to a reality. Let me say that again. In the physical realm, we know a feeling is always connected to a reality. I hope you see where I'm going. I'm going to trap you into believing Marcel now. Marcel then says, also, there are metaphysical feelings. Feelings which point to a metaphysical reality. Right? If we accept that feelings always point to a reality, and I have a feeling where there's nothing in this life that it causes it, then I have to admit there must be something outside of this life causing. Let me give you an example. Okay, I'll give you an example. So first of all, let me be very clear, right? Just to begin the demonstration, we know feelings always caused by a reality. Everybody agree with me? There's always a reality behind the feelings. Now, there are certain feelings, says Marcel, where you can look and look and look and look at reality and you cannot find the cause. And that's where Marcel says perhaps the cause is metaphysical. Okay, I'll give you an example. I don't know if I said this in the introduction, but Marcel actually gives a story, example of this, in one of his, he used to write plays, not just philosophy, right? So in one of his plays, he has a story of a woman who's very wealthy. Let's imagine her living on the Upper East Side, okay? Husband is in finance. They have a great, whatever, what are those called? Those big apartments on top of the buildings?
Penthouse.
Penthouse, yes, they have a penthouse. Their kids are perfect. They have no pimples. They are just no teenage crisis. They have A students, right? They're great. Kids are great. Husband is great. He works out. He's in good shape. He's nice. He makes good money. She's happy. She has her career, right? She's whatever, right? And so everything is good. And yet this woman has the audacity not to be happy, right? Happens. She's not happy. And so you can go and try and trace, why is she unhappy? Husband is good. Work is good. She found her career, her kids are good, she has her parents. What's wrong with this woman? Why is she? Marcel says there is something causing this unhappiness, and that thing is coming from outside of the, in other words, she is unhappy because she's connected with everything physically is good, but metaphysically there is a disconnect which is causing her unhappiness. She is in a way disconnected from, in other words, her feeling is pointing to a metaphysical reality. Do you see what I'm saying? Which in a way she's not able to access. There is a deeper reason why she's feeling like that, and because we cannot find the reason physically, it must be a metaphysical reality which is at the origin of this. Am I making sense? Inoyatov.
You could say that her feeling of unhappiness points to absolutely anything you can conjecture. Like you can say whatever you dream up of as having a metaphysical being. You can say her unhappiness points to the existence of a metaphysical flying spaghetti monster. I don't know.
What I meant is, I think.
I don't get how he gets from unhappiness to a specific metaphysical entity.
Let me clarify. It's a good question. All feelings have causes, right? We're good with that, right? All feelings point to a reality. If you cannot find a reality for a particular feeling, then in this world, then there must be a reality, but it's not in this world. That's it. He stops there, right? He's saying, therefore, it seems, of course, Marcel's never affirming, right? Let me be clear. He's never saying, yes, it is, it's there, believe it. No, he's not like preacher, right? He's saying, it seems to me, maybe, always, right? Seems to me maybe that she is, in a way, that her feeling is caused by something metaphysical and not physical, because I cannot find the origin of her feeling in the physical realm. Therefore, I must find it elsewhere. I don't know where, I don't know, but I'm not sure. But it seems to me that she is, in a way, her feeling is coming from a different dimension.
And while we can't prove it, we also can't not prove it.
Yes, exactly. Are you seeing? So he's not saying now, yes, easy. No, he's not triumphant. He's like, it seems to me, maybe, what if, right? That's where we are.
I guess it just seems to me that the most reasonable response in that situation is to say that, okay, I don't know exactly why she's not content, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to dream up a whole new level of reality in order to answer a question that I don't have an answer to.
Well, if you're right. But imagine you're trying to really find within reality the issue, and everything is good. then there's something else going on. That's all that Marcel is saying. There's something else going on, it seems, and there's something, maybe her feeling is maybe her feeling is pointing to a different level of existence than the material. Do you see what I'm saying? Everything materially is good, right, for her, but maybe her feeling is pointing to a deeper dimension than the material that she, in a way, is not satisfactory. Does that help a little more? Yeah.
I still don't see how he made that jump though. 'Cause, like in this specific example that we're just talking about, he would have had to live with this woman her entire life, or go through her whole life second by second to really be able to say that there's no explanation for it. Maybe something happened 25 years ago in her childhood that's her memory. Like there could be so many other reasons that he just hasn't stumbled across yet.
Yeah, good. I mean, I guess you could also just turn towards yourself. Have any of you ever experienced everything is good and yet you're still miserable? Anybody have this privilege? Okay.
I have, and there always was some underlying factor that I just didn't think of right away.
Think of it like this. Materially, you're good, but you certainly know that emotionally, spiritually, there's also things that could be wrong, right? That's the level Marcel is talking about, emotionally and spiritually. So he's saying, because remember, we're in a world where there's no spiritual, emotional, nothing. It's all material, right? With Darwin and so forth. So he's saying everything materially is good. The fact that she's still unhappy tells me that for us to be happy, it's not enough the material. Is that making a little more sense? We are, in a way, longing for something more than the strictly material.
What about, like, brain chemicals?
Huh?
What about, like, brain chemicals?
Yeah, he dismisses that because we all have this experience, so we're not all crazy, right? Some of us are, right? But he's saying most of us at one point of life will experience, everything materially is good, but I'm still, even I have emotionally is good. That's right? Most of us were miserable because materially it's good, but emotionally, right, we have some problems. He's saying even if emotionally everything is good and materially everything is good, some of us will still have something missing, pointing to another layer. That's all he's doing. He's saying there are layers. Material layer, we know, all of us, not enough to be happy. Most of us want emotional layer. He's saying even if you have the emotional layer, some of us will be longing for tapping into this higher layer, which he calls the layer of being. You see what I'm saying? Kind of?
I don't think he proves that at all.
I haven't done the proof yet. Yes, Epstein.
So I was going to build. The problem is he plucks out this example, but his example doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the perfect family. There's no such thing as a person who's always content with what they have and is still missing something. No, someone's always missing something. It could be mentally, it could be physically, it could be their own personality where they can't be satisfied with what's in front of them. But that has nothing to do with the metaphysical.
That's true.
He
Yeah, I
makes
mean,
up
yes.
this idealism. He
I like
makes up
that.
an idealism to
Mhm,
prove something.
Very
but
good. You're right. I
there's
mean,
no-
you see, I think Amoroso was right. You can explain it this way, but also you could explain it that way. You see what I mean? That's what Marcel is saying. He's saying it seems to me that, yes, we could explain it a way that chemically we are never going to be satisfied as human beings. Our brains are always wired to be unhappy or whatever, or something happened deep in her childhood, we don't know. But he's saying another way to explain it could be that it might be pointing to a higher reality, right? So we don't, or a deeper reality rather, for Marcel. Remember, Marcel is hypotheses. What if this woman's misery, even though physically, emotionally she's fulfilled, she's still miserable? Yes, we could explain mental illness, imbalance, she needs to do more yoga, whatever, right? But maybe it might point to a deeper reality, which she is in a way obscurely connecting or longing for, right? So you're right, we do not know.
You can't make a proof out of a hypothesis.
No, this is a different kind of a proof, right? This is a proof in the sense that this is a possible, yes, this is not a conclusive proof, right? Whatever Marcel is saying is not a conclusive
So
proof.
he's
It's
making a theory. He's basing a
Yes.
theory on a theory.
no, on an experience. He's basing a theory on an experience. He's interpreting the experience in that way.
So he's just writing about his own subjective experience.
Yes, yes. He's saying my experience is such, and here's the interpretation that one could give, possibly, but of course I am not sure. Yes, we have to leave it like that with Marcel. He's just saying here's what a possible way to explain it, but I understand that you could explain it differently. But what if
And
this was really
this
happening?
doesn't fall into the trap of Nietzsche's critique critique of projecting your own experiences onto reality.
We have to go deeper. Yes, I know you want to pounce on this guy. Wait. Especially, we have to wait till hope. This is the most strong one, right? This is the strongest one. But right now, this is the layout.
Nietzsche's point.
What?
Up till now, I think he's just furthering Nietzsche's point.
I know.
Exactly.
I know. We're not there yet. Slowly. See?
I mean, no, I can see like a parallel with this to the allegory of the cave, but like the issue I have with this is that you're kind of proving something that in itself is theoretical, that a lot of people aren't going to really believe because there is no concrete evidence, and you're basically like what Epstein said, like you're using a theory or like a theoretical of the perfect person who's always going to be happy.
Forget that example. Forget that example. Look within, right? Look around you. You have everything, and yet something is missing. That's all he's saying.
Nobody has
But
everything.
nobody's ever experienced that.
No?
Nobody.
I mean, look at someone. You have
The closest we
materially
get to that
you're
is
good.
like a baby right? A newborn, right?
That's a good point. No, that's
A
fair
newborn
point.
Who has everything, right?
I
If
mean,
the newborn is content, they're not crying and searching out. They're only crying and looking for something else
When
if
they're
they're
unhappy.
hungry or tired or something's bothering
Right,
them.
something physically in this realm is bothering
yes,
them.
except don't you, or have you never been in a state where you have a good family and you have everything provided and yet you're still like feeling something's missing?
I
No,
can't
never.
say
Some
that.
yes, no.
It's based to something in reality, whatever it is. Like I personally have one that everything is seemingly okay for the time being, but then you feel an emptiness, like sort of longing for something.
That's the
But
idea.
I've always managed to base that longing to something in reality.
Yes, you can do that. Or, right, well, maybe you found the longing connected to reality, but what he's saying is that some of us, maybe not all, given.
I can relate to that, by the way. I feel like sometimes I can't link that emptiness to anything physical, and
That's the
it has to be
idea.
a metaphor, like something.
Anybody feel empty and you're like, you don't know how to resolve it? Like, it's like you don't know where it's coming from. It's like, damn, I feel empty
No,
and
it can
hollow.
be resolved, but it's resolved through a level of human experience that doesn't fit necessarily into scientific categories. which is what
Okay.
I'm trying to say.
That's where I'm trying to go. Amoroso.
It's a word, I'm forgetting the word right now, but it's a word that means sort of like a nostalgia for a home that you've never known or maybe never even existed.
That's the idea.
So maybe that's sort of.
It's something like this. It's a kind of nostalgia. It's a longing, and you don't even know why you're feeling it. You can't put your finger on it. It's like the Heideggerian anxiety, right? Let me clarify because this will help, right? Heidegger says there's fear and then there's anxiety. Fear always has an object. Anxiety doesn't. It's a general anxiety. Anybody? Okay, let's go like this. Anybody feel a general anxiety? Like there's no reason to be afraid, but you feel anxious all the time? Anybody have? I'm sure you do. This is closer to you, right? So, no, not you, see. Okay. So this is the idea. This anxiety has no object. What are you? And Heidegger says you are connecting at that moment to a deeper level, which is being. Same idea, right?
I feel like it kind of fits in with me about how we were all like at God's bosom and then we fell.
Yes, that's exactly it. This is the lineage of Marcel, right? Sort of, yeah. So it's the same thing where anxiety has no, so this is the same. It's a kind of hollowness. There is no object that can feel it. And you're like, okay, so Marcel is like, well, maybe there is a deeper reality that is calling to me through this hollowness. Maybe. Remember, he's not a Christian, nothing. He's just wondering. It's like, where is this coming from? It feels like it's calling from deeper than just, it feels like I can only find fulfillment by taking a deeper path than just finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend and then having a nice lunch and then sleeping in a warm bed. It seems like there's something more calling me. Many philosophers have talked about this. Heidegger, we have Plato, right, saying that too. Am I a little bit, I know some of you are like, still not completely Goldstein. See?
I know, like, I see your point, but like, I just don't think that this should be constituted as like.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm giving you the layout, and now we'll do the first one. So we'll do the first one. So let's see. You guys are a tough audience for Marcel, but that's very good. That's very good. It's excellent. So let's try. So let me just summarize, right? The structure of this argument will always be the same, right? I'm feeling something which I could not feel unless I was tapping into something deeper than reality. Let me say it again. I'm feeling something which I couldn't feel unless I was tapping into a deeper, tapping into a deeper reality at that moment, unless I was aware of a deeper reality. So this is abstract. Let's look at the first example of this, and then we'll leave the other. 6 o'clock. Okay, let me go fast. Fate. How many of you have ever felt, whether it's a friendship or a romantic partner, that somehow something brought you together? Anybody? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so something brought you together. What are you feeling at that moment when you feel something brought you together? What is your worldview? Yes?
A shared experience as children or in the past usually is what brings people together.
No, but like you met and you have all these shared experiences, but you met. That's the feeling of fate. Like, damn, we were meant to meet somehow. Wow, we met. That feeling. Right? We have all these things in common, and damn, we met. How did this? I feel like, wow, something brought us to. That's what I'm talking about. How many of you have had this? 1, 2, not you anymore. Okay. 3. Okay, fine. Okay, this is, so now when you're thinking something brought us together, what are you tapping into? What dimension of reality are you tapping into? Are you tapping into the chaos of life where everything is random? Or are you tapping into, yes? Are you going to kill me yet? Wait, finish my thing before you kill it. Finish my damn thought before you destroy it. That's what Marcel is saying, right? Are you tapping into the chaos of existence when you're thinking something brought us together? What are you tapping into? What dimension of life are you? Just tell me the answer, then we can destroy it. Thank you. You're tapping into an awareness that there is a designing your life, correct? When you're feeling like this. Am I correct? Anyone who has the feeling of fate, this was meant to happen, is not tapping into the chaos of life. They are sensing on a deeper level that life is bringing stuff together for them, that life is putting them together, guiding them in this path, arranging things, orchestrating things, right? When you have the feeling of fate, you have an awareness of an orchestration, correct? If you have an awareness of an orchestration, you're tapping into the orchestra, the conductor. You're tapping into a sense of, you're tapping into a dimension, or you're tapping into, you're becoming aware that there is a design. This is the awareness of being for Marcel. First of all, are we clear before we go? Okay, let's go. Go ahead.
I think that could be a little circular because I think only people that already kind of have this understanding of a higher power will feel like, oh, this was meant to happen. So using this was meant to happen as proof of a higher power just, seems really circular. People that don't think that like really think according to evolution and Darwinism won't ever think this was meant to happen.
It's not a thinking, though. It's an intuition.
Or they won't ever feel that intuition.
So that is where I wonder if that is true. Could it?
When I was an atheist, I experienced it.
That's what I mean, right? It seems that some people, even if they hate God, complete atheist, right, they will still have the feeling like, oh man, I feel like this was meant. They might not believe it intellectually, but I feel this was meant to happen. But yeah, that's crazy, right? That's the idea. They'll immediately dismiss it. Yeah, that's crazy, right? But they will still say, man, I get the feeling this was meant to happen. That feeling is you aware of the design, feeling it, right? Then you're aware, your mind is quickly going to dismiss it, say, that's crazy, yeah, that's just sheer luck, right? But yeah, man, that's the idea. So you see, it's a powerful feeling. You're not, now let's stop on that briefly and then I'll get your question. You're not manufacturing this feeling, right? You didn't invent this, it hit you, like, damn, I feel so crazy that we're meeting, right? I feel like we were meant to be. So you're not manufacturing it. It's not coming from a place of misery, right? You're feeling it's excited, right? So it's not your mind, it's your feelings. You're not projecting anything, correct? In fact, your mind is trying to dismiss it, right? So it's not a projection coming from a place of misery. It's a feeling of excitement which you did not produce. And because for Marcel, feelings always point to a reality, and you want to, and you are invited to take your feelings seriously, Marcel is telling you, well, maybe your maybe, right? We don't know. Maybe your feeling is maybe your feeling is telling you there is a design. Do you see how it works? Now, who is still Epstein?
I'm going to replace the word fate with
Sure.
luck.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the thing. People, right, you meet someone, right, and you experience fate. And in the chaos of the world, things are bound to meet up. So the feeling of fate isn't much of a feeling at all. It's the chaos of the world lining up for, half a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
What you're experiencing isn't fate, you're experiencing luck.
What? So yeah, remember, fate, luck is an interpretation of a feeling.
No, luck is random. Fate is predetermined.
That's fine. But yes, that's it. That's nice. I like that. So luck is, so you're feeling like, man, this is crazy that it happened, right? And then your mind is going to say, how lucky we are that somehow the stars aligned, correct?
Correct.
Now the stars are aligning. Who's doing that? What are you tapping into when you think, oh, somehow the stars align?
I'm going to go back to the theory of the chaos
Random.
of the universe.
Completely
there is
random.
no reason. It's random.
Okay.
And when things are randomized, things will eventually align.
Yes, you're interpreting the situation. What I'm telling you is what you are feeling is the sense that it was meant to be. So if you're not feeling that, you're not experiencing what he's talking about, right?
Yeah, my point is, you're feeling fate, but you're experiencing luck.
Yes, you could say that. Absolutely. There's always two ways to interpret. I'm feeling fate. Maybe. Maybe not. Right? This is where we are. All Marcel is saying is that, well, between the two, maybe. Right? Why not? That's it. He leaves us. Then it's up to us to interpret fate or luck, right? But he's saying there's a feeling where it's like, damn, it feels like it was meant to be. I'm feeling it, right? And then I can brush it off and be like, well, probably just a random occurrence, whatever, and that's fine. You can do that. Or one of you might, or you could think, well, maybe there is a design. He leaves us sitting, stranded, right? Because you cannot prove either way. Like Amoroso was saying, you cannot prove it's luck, and you cannot prove it's design. All Marcel is saying is that perhaps it's design. You decide, right? Or you decide if you want, right? All Marcel is doing in his philosophy is that it's an invitation. It's an invitation to think about life differently than sheerly materially. Sorry, Ahmed, I see your hand now. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to ask a question about the comment that someone said about it being random and luck, and I guess I just wanted to go back to what you were saying about I think it was Stoics, if I'm getting the name right. So my question is, how can something random create something so structured as our society? So that was like the general question that I wanted to ask. So if you maybe.
Yeah, already the whole notion that there is a design, right? Many people still want to hang on to this idea, right? That there is a design in nature. Why not the design in existence? I guess that's what Marcel is kind of giving us the possibility of, right? Absolutely. And it for many people seems like there is a design both in nature and in human existence. But again, yes, again, in this case, it's not an interpretation. It's a feeling. That's what I want you to focus on. It's a feeling. And that's why it bypasses Nietzsche. You see what I mean? Because Nietzsche, you cannot construct a feeling. You can construct an interpretation. You cannot construct a feeling. And in that sense, Nietzsche might be open, perhaps, right, to this argument based on a feeling, because it's like, wow, at least you're taking life seriously. Number one, good point for Nietzsche, right? You're taking experience seriously. You're not trying to avoid reality. And yet here you are feeling this. You're not manufacturing it because you're miserable. It hits you as an evidence. Am I making sense? Some of you still on the fence? Yes, Barbara.
It was the part where you said you can't construct feelings. Feelings aren't always just innate and like stored in like the basic ones are emotions, sure. But there are people, I think most people can construct feelings. You condition your mind to say, I don't like that person. The first time you met them, your feeling wasn't a specific way, but you began to, gather evidence against them, and then you just constructed a feeling of hate that really has no real
That's a very good point.
and you didn't automatically have. So
Yes.
that respect,
I like that. It's true. You can construct a feeling, but in this case, it hit you before your mind was even. You see what I mean?
Right, but couldn't you if you feel like you have to or something's missing and you just say, okay, this person might be right, and then you start to construct the feeling yourself. Like,
yeah, so I'm agreeing that you can construct feelings of hate and feelings of love sometimes, right, through the mind. But in this particular situation, the mind is dormant, hits you before the mind even does anything. And in that sense, it's not a constructed feeling. So you're right, yes, feelings can be constructed. I take that back, right? Thank you. Feelings can be constructed. But this particular feeling of fate, it surprises you, right? There's a beautiful book by C.S. Lewis called Surprised by Joy, right? It hits him, right? The joy. And then he explores it and gets to an interesting conclusion, right? So does that make sense what I'm saying? The thing, it hits you before the mind can even begin to interpret or do anything. And in that sense, it has a truthful content. It's saying something true, at least it's saying something the mind is not constructing. And it's not itself constructed, that particular feeling. Is that?
My only question would be like, his whole thing is you're experiencing it rather than you're thinking about it.
Yes.
And I feel like what I'm thinking of is like someone's background in growing up. By the time they feel that feeling, can they identify it as what he's positing that it is? Or would like the feeling even come if they've been raised in a way that completely rejects feelings at all?
Now remember, Marcel was raised like that, agnostic, no religion, nothing, pure agnostic. And it's through these feelings that he begins to explore this deeper dimension. So Marcel is the perfect counterexample.
Experience, though, he went through something very harrowing. He was doing in a war. Some agnostics could be raised in like that penthouse life example that you gave.
Yes.
They still have that same feeling of faith or hope.
Yeah, so that's my point, is you're saying the background can condition how you feel, right? That's what you're thinking, right? And what I'm saying is that Marcel, his background was complete atheist, right? Complete materialist, right? And yet he began to have these feelings, and this is why actually he began to follow these feelings, and he got to this dimension. That was really how he did it, right? He wasn't first a Christian. Let me find a way to talk about God, right? In a way that is convincing. He was complete atheist, materialistic, began to have these feelings that seemed to open up different dimensions, explored the feelings, and got to being. That was his path. Does that make sense?
No, I understand like how he got to it, but in terms of application to different people, I feel like there's so many variations of
yes.
life.
Yeah. I agree. Some of us could be religious, and therefore we see faith, right? We immediately, we are more able to feel those feelings. Others are completely cynical, not able to feel the feelings. But in the case of Marcel, it shows that it is possible for a complete atheist to stumble upon this dimension without having the framework, right? Okay, I'm sorry, you guys. We're so... All right, next time, hope and presence. Let me stop the recording.